What are we jamming on now, Jay? What are you jamming on there? Some fucking anime shit.
No, not at all anime. This you just can't really see it well. This is an awesome little indie game.
Those eyes are anime. Those are anime, bro. I don't know what to tell you. That's anime.
Maybe that looks anime, but like this is essentially a cut screen that happens maybe 3 times, maybe 4 times in the game. Otherwise, you're playing Zelda.
Those are Dragon Ball Z eyes. Jay,
otherwise, you're playing.
Back off that
fair enough. Otherwise, you're playing Zelda. Like this is like a Link's Awakening kind of clone. Okay. Essentially, it's 2 mini games in one. It's a fun little adventure called Castaway by Canary Games. It's an indie game. This is awesome. So like the first, I guess, mini game is kind of like an adventure. You're on an island. Looking for your dog, like it's like a spaceship adventure. Like I don't know, it's kind of fun. You're basically crawling through dungeons, searching for weapons. But that really just sets you up for the second adventure, which is kind of like a 50-floor dungeon where you use said weapons to go deeper, get more power-ups and things like that. So it's kind of fun. Like when I was playing it, I was thrown off at first because it seemed like, oh, did I just somehow beat the game that quickly? But I realized you started with like a mapping section for each of your buttons, A, B, X, and Y. And like the first thing you get is your sword, and that takes like the X spot. So you realize, all right, in the next 2 dungeons, like you come to find out like you get 1 weapon in each of those. So this first mini game really just sets you up to like get you used to everything before you play this 50-floor dungeon as like a secondary game, because it like rolls credits and everything after the first one. But it's funny because it really does feel, with the exception of the fact that one of the weapons is a grapple, it really does feel like Zelda, like the sword slashing.
Grapple is like everything. Grapple being like the hook shot specifically, which is the same thing, is like the Nintendo, the Ocarina of Time meme joke of like you have to like having to use the hook shot painfully often and obscurely is like a big Zelda joke. So that's not outside of the Zelda realm either.
Yeah, but it's fun. Like it's a surprising little fun adventure worth a few minutes of your time. I can see now like how the 50-floor dungeon, because I definitely have not made it to the 50th floor. I've made it like to floor 24 so far.
So is it like fucking roguelite type shit where you're just doing the dungeon run, or is there a story built around the dungeon stuff?
The story, no, there's no story built around the dungeon stuff as that I've seen. It's like, all right, now you're ready to go hit this dungeon, and while you're going through it, you get like sword times 2 or sword plus 1 rather, or shield plus 1, which you never had a shield before, and like little power ups like that to kind of help you press forward. But we'll see how many more power-ups and little trinkets they kind of add to the dungeons. So more to come on that, but it's still fun either way. Like I found myself just sunk in for a couple hours last night doing that, like more than I expected to. You know, definitely worth your time. Good stuff.
Okay.
Outside of that, I have been definitely loving the Doom and Doom 2 combination that dropped on the Game Pass. Like, I played all the way through, like I texted in the chat, played all the way through the original Doom, which I had never done before, which is cool. So I could understand how...
That's heavy. That's a heavy undertaking.
No, it actually was not, man. Like, it's funny. It was so smooth, and I gotta imagine there's some measure of, like, control smoothness, because I already had, like, the Doom 2 version anyway, but like this, even when I got to Doom 2, felt like a lot smoother. So I feel like they've, massaged the controls, made it easier. But either way, I could see how when they made the first Doom, because I never played that one as a kid, I only started with Doom 2 and moved forward. I can see how anybody who played the original Doom was like, oh my gosh, we have something here. We just got to add some stuff and like bring it to Doom 2.
Oh, for sure. Doom 2 is definitely a huge upgrade.
Oh my
Doom's
gosh.
cool, but there's just more interesting shit going on with the second one.
Yeah, for sure. So I like moved into the second one, and I'm just playing it to try to play through it because I don't think I quite beat.
Yeah, I never beat it either. I tried to.
Yeah,
when they dropped all those, they were remasters, but they were, they dropped them on Xbox however long ago. I bought that pack and tried to play through 2, and yeah, I got stuck at some point or another. I don't know, somewhere in the middle. I would guess. And yeah, it was just like, like I kind of, it's It's the same. It's just harder, and the payoff is not worth it.
I don't know, man. I am focused on beating it now because of that. I'm like, I remember I didn't complete it, and I know before though. I think maybe because of the way my brother influenced me, because I was playing on his computer. I always tried to get the secrets and stuff like that, but now I'm just trying to like beat it. Like I'm not trying to find every secret. I'll search for secrets, sure, but I'm not going to like try to 100% every level.
Couldn't. Yeah, it's fucking.
Just try to get through.
Shit. There's way too much shit. Yeah. I mean, like I told you when I was playing Wolfenstein in VR, I was on this in the beginning trying to like get all the secrets, and really what that turns into in those games is you're literally just walking along walls hitting the button.
Yeah.
And it's not a fun way to play a video game.
It's funny though, because I think because of that though, when I play the current Doom, which I still haven't beat, but I'm still making my way through, I absolutely am searching for all the stuff. Like I know I'm missing something. I'm going to come back here and like get that.
Well, it's because it's the new games. They're more in, it's not as stupidly, it's not,
of course,
you don't catalyze them via that super stupid, tedious means.
Exactly.
You it's like a fucking modern game. So it's not at all the same equation to fucking find that shit. Yeah. It's just not any fun at all. And with Doom, I don't think this became a thing in Wolfenstein. But with Doom, it's not just the spacebar stuff. It's also shooting some of them. So sometimes you have to shoot the wall, and sometimes you have to do the and like the idea that you have to try both things on every single fucking panel in the level. Like, get out of here. Yeah. That's not any fun. That's zero fun.
Definitely for some of them, I was like, where was there a secret? Like, what do you mean zero? What do you mean? I'm like, what are we talking about? I'm just like,
that was way too many of them.
Yeah. Either way, very fun. And also, there's a bunch of other, because I'm playing through, obviously, I played through 1, I'm playing through 2. But there's also a bunch of additional content that seemed to have been released after that, but in the same vein of Doom 2 specifically. Like, a follow-up to Doom. Like, this is in the style of Doom.
WADs? Or?
No, they seem to be just, like, straight-up additional content. Like, I don't remember the names of them because I haven't gotten to them yet. I just kind of scrolled through them and kind of saw, like, one was like released in 2006. One was released in, like, 1997. One was released in, like, just random times. One was like some unofficial, like Doom 3 that they canceled. You know what I mean? One was like, so like a bunch of, and then like this was the original, this was the like official like successor to Doom 2.
Well, some of them, they like, the
all with weird different names.
The mod community is so robust with Doom 2 and has been for 30 years that there have definitely been instances where ID compiles some user generated created stuff and then releases it as official, so some of that stuff I would guess is probably that, but there's just
at least one of those is like that. Yep.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a near infinite amount of additional stuff out there that you can plug into Doom 2, the WAD stuff, the WAD fucking editing. Yeah. It's such a wild. How define remaster to me?
Well, no, these are not remastered to me. Like, these just feel like it looks the same, it feels the same, it just feels smooth. Like, obviously, like when I was a kid, I played it with my brothers. I think he had like a joystick and keyboard. I think we did joystick and keyboard kind of situation. So like to me, just using my Xbox controller feels smooth. Like I feel like they had to do something. Either way, like it looks and feels the same. So I don't know if it's specifically remastered. I don't know what they've done to it.
I was gonna say, how the fuck? Yeah, it's remaster is the verbiage that's getting thrown around when this happened a couple weeks ago. And like I said, they were already on Xbox in their complete forms. I had them years ago. So what the fuck is the difference then?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't go do some side-by-side comparison. I love the Doom. I realized playing through this, I love the Doom franchise itself, and that's why I'm excited to play through all these like random iterations that even look the same, that aren't like you would think like, oh, if this one was released in 2006, maybe this is a graphical upgrade. But no, like they're still in the Doom 2 like same vein, potentially same engine.
It would be interesting,
kind of thing.
I would be curious because I can't like for some reason. It's funny. This is applicable to all those games in particular. Like the Wolfenstein. I I think there was a level editor, but it was not the same thing as far as how well it was engaged. But both the Dooms, obviously, and then Duke Nukem 3D had that community. Quake had that community where people were making their own levels and all these different mods, yada, yada, yada. And there's so much of it that it's overwhelming, and I can't even begin to engage it because it's just too much. I don't know where to begin, and the idea of spending time just like searching for stuff and like just randomly trying ones that could be bad, like I just can't bring myself to do that even in the 30 years that have passed since this community was started, So if someone could, and this may even exist, but it would have to be brought to my attention too to probably get me to engage it. I don't want to search for that either, but like a curated sampler platter of the things that are available both in level creation and just mod stuff. Like that's kind of the cool thing about one of the cooler things about, I mean, it's obviously just cooler in VR also, but that Quest Z Doom platform on Quest that allows me to play all those games in VR, Quakes, Dukes, Dooms, all of them, is it's just a menu system for applying the various modifications. That's how you play Legend of Doom, the Legend of Zelda one, and then the Castlevania one. They're just literally a button you click in the UI to set up and launch the game. It's like a launch box that allows you to just toggle things, you know, and it's like it's even tiered. So you have like the first tier is like full world mods, and that's where you can set it to like Doom or Legend of Zelda or Castlevania. Or there's alien ones like H.R. Geiger Alien, James Cameron Alien. There's a range of other ones that are kind of like full reskins into another story world. But then below, different tiers below that also have just like weapon packs or increased gore or just various like kind of still broad but not complete changes to the game that allow you to kind of just change your experience in ways that are like easily discernible. And like I said, it's just a toggle. I don't have to download anything. I don't have to try anything that doesn't work. I don't have to do... These are already kind of like pre-approved by the developers of the UI, of the launch box, that these are cool and they work correctly, and all you got to do is turn them on to engage that. So like, if someone could do that, kind of like that was the cool thing about that VR mod to Outer Wilds as well, was that someone, the community for that game is so fucking enthusiastic that someone built a mod UI. So again, it takes all the bullshit out, and it literally, you just toggle a button, and not only does it downloads it, installs it, and then allows you to turn it on and off right there in the thing. You don't have to do any of your own shit. You know what I mean? So if they could do that, if someone has done that, rather, please, fucking listeners, bring it to my fucking attention, because that would be really cool.
This actually does have community mods. Like, I pulled up the actual article on this, and so I haven't looked at that. I realized there's a bunch of stuff in the menu. I don't pay attention to it yet, and it's just like I've been jumping in. But there is multiplayer, which there never was. Like, there's online co-op and deathmatch.
That's cool. That is the remaster.
Deathmatch multiplayer up to 16
I don't
players,
believe that was present. Yeah. I can't imagine we wouldn't have done that.
That was definitely not present. Are you kidding me? We would have gone nuts.
We would have done it for sure back when I was playing that. So that is cool for sure. Obviously, so that's a good addition.
So all of that is good. Plus, it also says there's a brand new episode, which is like the actual official succeeding episode to Doom 2, which is great. But then community mods. And so, like, to me, that would be the most foreign thing to me. That would be the last thing I would check out. But for people who are big into that, I'm sure they would dive in. So if anybody tells...
and it, like, explains what the fuck they are.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, cool.
Because I think I actually might have clicked on it once and just kind of said, oh, there's a whole section on, like, mods here.
It's like an overwhelming list of things.
Yeah, like,
I can't fucking...
I'll check it later.
Yeah. At least in a consumable UI, there's at least a hint of feasibility to engage in it. But yeah, I mean, in the no front end greasing of the wheels for that. It's just like, it's always just been like, it makes me sweat to even think about fucking trying to figure out and go through all the things that are available. So that's cool. Very cool. Word. Okay.
Yeah. So loving on that. And then the last game that I've been just like dipping my toe into, just getting started. I noticed this game was released pretty recently on Xbox called Remnant 2. It was like very well received game. And I'm like, oh, I would love to play that. But again, another game that I'd never even heard of the first one. So I looked back at my games to be played later and I realized, oh, I actually own that game. I got this a while ago. And so I booted it up, played through kind of the starter world. And I'm just kind of dipping my toe into it. And it sounds fun. Like I don't even really know how to explain it yet. I feel like I need to like really get into it yet to like really give a full review, but I'm excited to kind of play through that as well. So,
okay,
yeah,
it's very ambiguous throwing out there.
Oh yeah,
here's no information about it, but
not at all. Remnant, yeah, like it. Okay. Well, the cool thing is it's actually co-op, which I did not know. Like you can play it by yourself easily online, totally fine, or not online, offline, or you can play it co-op and just run with other people you know, which is cool. But it sounds like it's mission based. But again, like I don't know all the details yet because I just played through like the place by myself. You basically got to pick a kind of like a class, almost like really a type of person. Like you are post-apocalyptic. I don't really know what happened yet, but you know, I am either like a wasteland ranger or I'm like a scrapper. I'm like building armor out of things, or I don't remember what the third one is. Like
Fallout Bite. Okay.
Yeah, kind of like thing, but like, and then you pick that type, and now I don't know what's happening next. It looks like there's a base. It looks like I might be able to like level up and get different armor. I don't know, but again, like this is much more than I expected. I kind of thought this was just like a first player solo adventure game, which clearly it does have that option. Like it clearly says like offline play solo, like you can totally do that. But also the fact that I could be like, hey, jump on and play this game with me sounds really cool and makes me excited, you know? So it has promise. I don't want to like oversell it because like I said, I'm just got to dip my toe in. These like creatures are coming at me. Like they're like, the enemy is called like the Root. Like I think it's this, I can't remember if they were like aliens that invaded or what. Like I can't remember the details, but it's interesting enough that I am like, okay, I'm ready to play through this and give it some full attention.
Yeah, Fallout's cool, even if it's a rip or actually Fallout.
No. This is actually this feels a lot different than Fallout to me. Like this feels like Fallout is much more like you're in the open world, like let's see what happens. What are you going to do? Are you going to build a shelter? Are you going to like survive? This feels much more directed, you know, and less open world, like run around and figure it out type of thing. Cause you can like join a session and look for somebody to like kind of play forward with you. So, but like much less, not quite Back for Blood where you're like, hey, now we're just moving this zone to zone together. It feels kind of like a hybrid between the two. And so, yeah. I will talk more about it next time.
Copy that.
What about you, sir? What have you been jamming on these days?
I finished that work thing on the 3rd, and so I hadn't fucked with anything in forever, over a month really. And coming out of that, you know, I didn't have anything. Like I finished Asgard's Wrath 2, so I didn't like have something, you know. Mm-hmm. So I kind of like, for like a week, I kind of just like wandered aimlessly through my UI, like, because I have a bunch of stuff I've bought and not fully finished.
Right.
There's like that Night in the Attic game that was like a little like a labyrinth type thing where you had to like roll the sides and move the whole board and the thing rolled around. Like I have that. I haven't finished. I have this game Ghost Giant, I think it's called. That's kind of very Moss like, which Moss is the game with the cute ass mouse, and you're like,
oh yeah,
it's like a fairy tale world. Mm-hmm. Those are great games. The Ghost Giant one, I've tried to play it a couple times, and it's clunky. There's something wrong with it. I even noticed, it's kind of funny. So last time, whenever I had played it originally, I got stuck at this one point, and this game's been out for a long time. So the idea that this happened is very odd to me. But I played it. I got stuck functionally. This thing, you can only like turn 3 clicks, so you don't have like 360 degrees. You're like this omnipotent thing. It's very Moss-like in that regard. In Moss, you're kind of like you're a god that's assisting like a little sprite, right. And you control the sprite and the God hand. So you like are juggling between the two to solve puzzles and engage enemies and yada yada. This one, you're just the God, but you only have like 3 clicks of turning, so you don't have like full 360-degree view of the world. And like I got stuck on this thing where I literally couldn't seem to do whatever I was supposed to do, and I tried firing that back up again, and I got back to that same point, and they had like added this kind of FAQ moment where like the thing kind of the little character that I'm like overseeing like explained something to me about that thing that I wasn't able to figure out or do last time.
Okay.
I still couldn't do it. I still wasn't able to do, but it gave me information for it. So that suggested to me that there had been complaints since I last played it. And the developers tweaked that exact little moment. And it's funny to me that they not only, again, for how long it's been out, years, I think. Like the idea that it would come this late is weird to me, and 2, that it would just happen. It hasn't been like it's not like a year ago I played it. It was like a couple months ago or something, So that was just interesting to me, and even more so and sad that I still couldn't get past that part. So like something's I don't know. It's not quite satisfying in that there's functional shit that's just not working. So whatever, tried that, didn't play it because I couldn't get anywhere, and digging around doing that, kind of just going back to apps that whatever. I fired up Waltz of the Wizard again. Do you remember me talking about this? This is the one that was like you're literally doing wizard shit. It's very sandboxy. There were voice commands and stuff that voice commands. So like a long time ago I had fucked with this, and like my big criticism when I first was fucking around with it was that it was too much of an undeveloped sandbox. Like there's all this super cool shit you could do, and all these spells and like all these ingredients and all this shit you can engage in this tower and then down in this courtyard. But it was just a sandbox, and there was this level by level dungeon thing you could go into, but it was kind of weakly designed, and you didn't have, at least I wasn't able to use all the same like wild functionalities necessarily. There was still a bunch of cool shit you could do down there and cast a bunch of spells, but it just wasn't the same in my view. And the sandboxy thing was cool to fuck with for a while, but you kind of just like eventually you do a bunch of stuff and you're like, okay, what's the point of this? The dungeon thing isn't fun. The sandbox mode is only fun for a finite period of time. So just like, what am I going to do with this? So I kind of put it down and let it fall by the wayside, and I fired that back up, and they've added a bunch of new shit. And dude, you have to, with your like wizard affinity, you have got to try this, dude. And I think it's super cheap, dude. I mean,
wait a minute. What was the game that we played together where we did wizardy stuff? What was that game?
It wasn't
in VR.
This is definitely solo player. I don't remember.
We played a game in VR that was wizardy. Like we were both in. There's only one game. Like what?
Dungeons of Eternity?
Was that in VR?
It's VR, yeah, but it's not. Dungeons of Eternity isn't really wizardy. You have like a bow and arrow or melee weapons. You don't really cast any spells.
Oh, I think maybe I grabbed a wizard staff in that.
Well, there is a staff, yeah. So I guess that's kind of
never mind. Okay, carry on.
So that's just a dungeon crawler. That's a completely different deal. That's much more. That's a roguelite. You're just doing short dungeon runs, and then you go back and get loot, or spend the loot to buy new weapons. That's amazing. I still play that randomly all the time. That's developed a lot too, and much harder now, but. Not what I'm talking about here. Yeah, this is much more focused on like you have to learn ingredients, and you have to learn hand motions, and there's just I don't know anything that's ever come close in like truly trying to recreate the wizard experience in that you have to learn how to do these things, and like. I remember kind of saying this last time, but it's like that may sound easy, like, but there's different. It's just it's complex. I don't want to say complicated and make it sound like bad. It's just complex, and you have to spend time getting good at this stuff to really be able to use it on command in moments where you're like presented with an adversary.
That sounds like a stressful real life experience.
It is stressful. It's if you allow yourself to care, it is definitely stressful. But that's why it's cool. If there were no stakes, it wouldn't be any fun.
Leviosa, I said it wrong. Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah, dude. And there there's I think 16 base spells, but there's also different ways to implement them, and it's really fucking cool. And yes, they've added, even to the sandbox mode, they've added some new areas and stuff, and like they basically gave it more of a, because that was the problem even too with the sandbox thing. Like, yes, all this shit's available to you, but you're not really directed to utilize it in a way that forces you through the practice part of it, you know what I mean? And learning the things and trying them out and seeing them in practice in different ways that you could then apply them to a problem set you might be presented in a more straightforward game situation, you know what I mean? So it's added all these things to help you kind of practice and like make you use these things to solve things in a world, or solve problems that you might be presented in a world, which is good, of course, because it helps you just fully build out like playing the game, so that's cool. And they added all these, like, there's like hand motion stuff that they've kind of added, like getting this ring, and then that allows you to like do these things, and then or different new things, and the voice command stuff is still there, so like talking through your hands to create an energy it's just, there's just so much to it, dude, that someone who enjoys the idea of magery, I don't know how you wouldn't have a blast with it, especially at the price point that I don't even know what it's at now, but I remember and it's been built out a little bit, so maybe they've added a few bucks to it, but there's no way it's more than $20. So it's rather cheap. I'd guess it's probably less than that still. And yeah, for that price point, it's such a cool thing, and I just cannot recommend it enough if you're into that kind of thing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's super cool. So I fucked with that a little bit, and then started, but it's still a sandbox, and like I said, the dungeon component of it is still just not cool enough to make it a great game yet, but it's like the coolest tech demo I've ever seen, I think, which is cool. So yeah, I finished fucking around with that and started looking for something new, and I had heard about this game called Humans. One of the podcasts had mentioned it, one of the VR podcasts, and they kind of talked about it. They, puzzler, so I'm immediately piqued by that, and it was one of the games that they allowed you you can try it out for free for 40 minutes or something. Nice. Which I just don't know why they don't do this for everything.
That'd be amazing.
If it's good. And I've seen it more and more, so they're learning, like, developers are learning, like, this is a great idea, idiot, that, especially with VR, where so much of it does this feel good, too?
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So it's, a very smart thing to be doing, and this application was smart enough to do it. And yeah, I think 30, 40 minutes, whatever it was, and I was like, at the end of it, I was like, yeah, I gotta give me more. Oh my god, this is fucking great. It's Lemmings in VR, dude.
That's why I'm like, what the hell is behind you? Like, is this floating Lemmings?
It's
I'm
fucking
afraid
Lemmings,
to know.
dude. It's Lemmings with a dope ass story in VR. So it's very much the same thing where you are, there's like this little doorway, and at the start of the level, humans just start pouring out of it in mass, walking in one direction, and they'll just walk off and die in the void. If you don't, you control this little, your like cursor or whatever is this cute little dog that runs around panting, and with that dog, you lay down commands on the ground, very similar to the way you would designate a lemming in Lemmings to start doing a certain task, and then that changes the environment in some way, shape, or form. So in this case, you're not changing the environments. Well, you eventually start maybe pushing blocks and stuff, but generally speaking, you're not really tweaking the environment. You're tweaking the route that you're sending this flow of humans through to get them to a goal tile where they are then transported up to whatever. It's fucking heaven or something. So you like the first thing you get is like just a turn command. So you like lay down a turn. They can turn any one of the 4 directions, cardinal directions, and at that, when they hit that tile, they just all turn and start walking that new direction. So you can lay down multiple of these to guide them through a little thing, whatever, to get them to a thing. Now, of course, That gets more complicated as you progress through levels, and then you also get new commands. So you can start doing a jump, and then a high jump, and then a long jump, and then you can... I just got one in the new thing I'm in right now where you can... when they walk onto this tile, they split and start walking two opposite directions. And like half of them go each way. So like there's reasons you would need and want to do that in these new levels. So it's puzzle crack, dude. It is like... And it's also... It's done in this really beautiful kind of void-y white space game world that's very reminiscent to me of Cubism, where like literally playing it is just soothing if you're not in a stressed out moment where you're fucking up and sitting in the wrong direction or something. Like when you solve a problem and you get them going, like when the level ends, you can just sit and watch it. You can just sit and watch it go and work the right way that you designed, and just watch them walk through the thing and go into the thing and just keep going endlessly, And when I solve a puzzle or a level that was a little tougher, I'll just sit and watch that shit for a minute or two and just be proud of my work, you know what I mean? As like with the system I designed. It's very reminiscent. I was just talking to, it's not probably the same guys that were talking about this, I think, the Let's Talk Oculus guys. I was talking to the one guy, Dan, on Twitter yesterday about... They mentioned in their last episode that last Clockwinder game, which was like the basketball shot game, where you throw the fruit and design the systems with the automaton robots and shit. And he was talking about, they were talking about whatever great games that they hadn't played, and that he mentioned he still on to do, and he really has been meaning to do it. And I was like, dude, that game, like, it's the coolest, best implementation of VR possibility and functionality I've ever seen. And the same thing with that. When I would solve one of those puzzles and design a system that worked, and they like volley into each little automaton robot and then get it into the fucking goal, like I would just sit and watch that shit after, because it's like such a it's one of those things where there's an endless, maybe not endless, especially in the early levels, but there's just so many different ways to solve a given puzzle that it feels like a creative work when it's done. It's not, you didn't just solve this binary fucking problem set that everyone's going to solve the same way. You solve it in your own creative whatever, and you can do it in different ways that obviously are more satisfying when you overcome a difficult problem, So it's just, I will sit and watch that shit mesmerized for an extra minute or two. And they also, so there's that, that's like the core of it. There's also like the little bonus system they have, or they're called Goldies, and they're like these kind of like larger character models that are just standing somewhere, or they're somewhere you have to basically pass the flow of humans through them, and then they go down into the mass and they will walk with the group of people towards wherever you're sending them. So these are like, they're like your bonus goals or whatever. And when you get them, and you are able to get them safely to the goal, which it's like a one-time thing. If they like walk off and die, they're gone. You have to restart the stage. So it's kind of a very, I don't know, there's a lot of finality to making the choice to pick them up and go. You have to make sure you have it figured out right, or you're going to have to restart the level. So you get those and you accumulate them, and they act as the achievement reward system in the game, basically. And they've done a really good job with those in how they, like, the subtle quality of life improve. Like, they're not game breaking though. They're just like cool, subtle quality of life improvements that you get new functionality for by accumulating these things and doing the extra work to safely get them to the goal too, and not just the masses of humans. You know what I mean? And that's just really cool. So there's a lot of like cool quality of life stuff, and then actually creative, I think, not just like different clothes. Some of them are different clothes or whatever, but there's also some cool like creative cosmetic things that you can do to the humans to make it more funny looking or more fun to watch them walk in mass off a cliff or to a goal or whatever. So it's just it's a beautifully done game. I mean, it was like, the flat screen one was one game of the year or something. It's like, it's
really
not a surprising thing that the VR iteration.
What's the game called?
Good. Humans. That's it.
Why is it not?
Yeah, it's by the name of the developer. Weird. The name of the developer. Oh, I'd have to look it up. I don't recall off the top of my head. But yeah, try Humans VR, and that will get you the.
Because it keeps giving me all kind of weird different things.
Yeah, I mean, humans is a tough word for sure. But I was able to, it was like when I was looking for this image behind me, it was probably, I don't know, between the 10th and 20th return on Google Images.
Man.
When I typed humans
like
VR.
He keeps trying to give me like human anatomy and stuff.
Like,
I don't care. Like, why would I care about anatomy? Like,
yeah, do humans VR quest, and that it'll for sure come up. But yeah, there's a flat screen one too, so you don't have to play it in VR if you don't want to. But again, I don't know. It's honestly cooler, I think.
I'm gonna have to check out the flat screen.
Dude, it's so fucking good, dude. It's so satisfying, and yeah, I just cannot stop. And I refuse. It's like I feel so incentivized to do the bonus stuff to get those goldies. Like I will not proceed to the next level until I have them, you know? So like there's a lot of drive to completionist approach the game for sure, you know, and not just blow through levels. It's so beautifully done. And there's a cool story too. I mean, I'm only, you know, I'm in the third world or whatever, so I haven't fully developed it, but the idea, you're definitely some kind of like creator-esque, godlike. You're in some system to become one, or there's some functionality you are trying to present to these masses, and it takes the effort to like explain to you that the humans, like, they're souls, not people, and when they die and just walk off a fucking cliff and just die in mass as you're trying to solve these puzzles, you don't need to feel bad for them. They are, you know, they are reincarnated or recreated, or they come back through the door, basically. So it's like they are not finite physical beings; they are souls, and yeah. So there's this really high concept, beautiful story thing going on. I think that is also a nice driver for moving through the game too. I want to know what's happening with that for sure. So that is also well done. It's not just a cool puzzle game. So yeah. High praise, man. It was a real, you know, it's the kind of thing when I heard them talking about it, I was like, oh, that's fucking, I'm going to go off deep end on that for sure. So I was not at all surprised. I felt that way once I got into it, but yeah, in doing so, whatever, fucking cemented that feeling for sure. It's a really, really good game. So, been playing that mostly. I did get in and I'm still working through the backlog of walkabout courses I've missed, and Amy and I tried out the Venice one recently, maybe earlier this past week, and it's beautiful, you know, very relaxing. The music in the boats, stuff going on, like the canals, you know, that you would expect the Venice one to be, is pretty cool. Hardest ball hunt, I think, by a margin, probably. Man. Like, I only got about half of them on my first pass through, and when we buy a level and play that, for sure, we like spend a lot of time hunting for balls together even. And yeah, I only found about half of them, so not good, Bob. I haven't done the putter hunt yet. That might actually be on the to-do, or maybe we'll do that tonight. I don't know, but we haven't gotten to that yet. But I'm sure, my guess would be that will be quite difficult too. If the ball hunt's hard, I would expect the putter hunt to also be difficult. So that's out of the way. I only have 2 left that I haven't fucked with. There's one for Wallace and Gromit that has dropped, and you have kids, so I'm guessing you know what that is, right?
Yeah, it's like right. But I feel like that's from. Yeah, I've seen it somewhere. I don't even know if my kids would know the names
guy and a
of
dog,
it, but yeah, I've seen it.
So that one, that's their most recent one. I haven't played that one, so I don't know. It's, of course, all the stuff I've heard about it is, of course, great. It's not like they've ever dropped one where everyone's like, oh, that's shitty. Like, no one's ever said that. Even the fucked up upside down one. Yeah, even that, it's like, yes, it's frustrating, but it's not because it's bad. It's because the physics that they intended it to have are just wonky and different and tough, you know. So there's that one, and then there's the Ice Lair one, which is the other like Spy 50s one that came out after that first one that I do have. And I kind of hate, I'm not really into that aesthetic, so maybe that's one I'll never get to, perhaps, but unless I'm really in a content pinch, I don't know. But the Wallace and Gromit one I'll probably check out for sure. So that, and then the only other thing I had to talk about was that quest I set out on, and that analog quest I set out on recently, the every X-Men issue ever. I started going. I'm through I think the first 8 issues now. Okay. And they're each like, these early issues are like 30 There are 36 pages in the reader, but each one of them has like a bunch of fucking ads in it and shit. And like that's I'm so glad they included that because the ads are nuts. They're bananas. They're from the 60s, you know. These first issues are in the 60s. So they're crazy, man. There's so many of them that are like trained to become a auto mechanic, like improve your life, like become a fucking, you know, learn this trade. And then like there's a ton of them that are like become a strong man, and like even the guys they show are not impressive by modern standards, you know. Yeah. So there's that. There's one something to do. There's like a female version of that, like somehow I forget, be some sort of way of becoming more desirable as a female. And like these are full page ads, you know, that are in there. So yeah, they're wild, man. So the fucking ads are nuts in there. So those are fun. But obviously the meat is the story. And man, I kind of fucking hate these early ones. It's so hokey and so, I don't know, they're trying, you know, there's the first issue, of course, is just like, it's like literally 30 pages of exposition. It's like just, and not even like, it's not exposition like cool backstories about where these people came from, which would be more interesting. It's exposition and like, it's the first day of their training at the X Mansion, and Professor X is taking Cyclops, Beast, Angel, Marvel Girl, and Iceman like through danger room exercises, and it's literally just a step-by-step explanation of what their powers are, which, you know.
But wait, are you reading the first one too? I thought you were starting with Giant Size.
No, yeah, that was a misspeaking. That is the first one in the file.
Yeah. Because that's like really the relaunch of...
Well, exactly, in the 70s, right. And that's kind of what I can't wait for, is that iteration of them, and moving forward into the early to mid-90s is where I really...
But you went way back. You went to
I went to the very first. The very
first. I've definitely done that.
Yeah, man. It's not... They're not
as good, no.
Yeah, it is interesting. You know, it's part of the writing in the 60s. It's just, you know, like, they're, you know, it's like fucking...
They just wrote whatever
culture. Yeah. It's just not. They're just not. It's so far behind that it's tough to relate to. In the same way that an old movie is tough to relate to. It's like you don't have. You know, it's like it's just not a developed story medium to the degree that it is now, and it's super hard to engage as a result. So that's one thing about it that's interesting, I suppose. One of the things that I guess I kind of am getting positively out of it is I'm shocked at how early some of the stalwart story things were introduced. Like Asteroid M first appears in issue fucking 5. Like appeared as Asteroid M, called that. Like I just would have guessed arbitrarily, if I had to guess, I would have thought that, you know, that was something that like appeared as just a place without a name. And then we come back to it, and eventually we hear what its name is, and maybe the name has changed over the years. I had not expected to just be appear. Oh, we're at Asteroid M now, and it's like in the yellow box that explains the setup, like the editor setup for the part of the story we're entering. Not even dialogue out of people's mouth, you know, in passing. It's like literally like the editors. This is what we're calling this. That's the name of this place moving forward. Get to know it, you know. And it's really interesting how many things like that I've noticed in these first handful of issues that I just would not have guessed came around or came to be that early. The storyline early is like, I mean, Magneto, is he? I think is it the first? It was like the first or second issue you first see Magneto. Even that surprised me. Even that surprised me. Like I would not have guessed that he whatever. And and his whole kick, you know, they work so hard on the Homo sapiens versus Homo superior shit and that early stuff. It's it is just like grotesquely repetitive how often he is like saying the Homo superiors are superior. Fuck you, Homo sapiens. You know, like it's so proclamative.
they got to let you know what's happening because you don't have any backstory at all. It's just any like context. This is the bad guy. He hates these guys. Remember, he hates them. Yeah.
And it's so there's like that one of those first few issues where he goes to the military base and he's talking to the general and he's, you know, the general's like, who the fuck are you? Like, get the fuck in that stupid ass outfit, get out of here. And he's like, you homos. It goes into like this completely unrealistic speech that he would give. Yeah, it's so bad from like believable, organically presented story in the way it would be judged in a modern context. You know, it's hilarious to me.
Yeah, I think it's funny too because like obviously it didn't really get popular until the 70s with the giant size X-Men and then moving forward after that, you know. But the cool thing
I wonder if that's because it's the first 128 issues. I wonder, I mean, it's got to at least get me to that giant size X-Men if that's in this lot. So I think, is that supposed to be like issue 129? I remember. I don't expect you to answer this question, but like I just wonder if I'm literally reading up to that exact moment with this pack of 129 issues that I got off Archive. That's where I got it, by the way, is archive.org. Okay. So you don't have to have a Marvel subscription or whatever to read these things. You can literally download these 129 issues starting from number 1, full scans off archive.org. So if you want to partake in this quest, it is very achievable, you know.
Yeah, I mean it's just funny to me because like because of the writing and the way that you kind of like we laugh about it and joked about how that was. It's funny in the current times how they've done recent stories where they've brought not even now also but even like the run before the current like House of X, all that kind of stuff that happened. They brought the original X-Men, that same cast of 5, but into the current context in like unique ways. Like they first did it before the House of X, like, oh, what would happen if like, because of the weird time stuff that was happening, we just brought them here and they got stuck. And it's like, now you're here, live life. And like, now let's see. And like put them in different situations where you don't have to like deal with all that stuff. And then like, even in the current run, like just having them like function differently has been super fascinating because you like those characters. And like, for example, Iceman, he was like a joke and like whack before, and like even the way they draw him was very snowbally in the beginning. Yeah. But like now,
well, they just literally this last issue I read, he was commanded in the danger room by Professor X to do something with his ice crystals that made him less snowbally and more of how he's kind of, you know, kind of the more angular, sexy Iceman, you know. So there was even like that's kind of what I mean is like there's like this moment of like. You can see the development, you know, even at issue 7 of like, it'd be better if you look this way. Yeah. How do we figure out a story way to introduce that and start making it a norm, you know? And that's what I am most excited about is, you know, describing like being able to, if I don't die before I get to this modern phase, like to be able to appreciate everything that they might be trying to pepper in with these callbacks, etc., will be super cool.
But that's what I mean. Like it'll be hard to go back. For me at least, as a self-professed super fan, it would be hard to go back and not think of Iceman as like the Omega level mutant as we know him now, and all like the crazy stuff he can do with moisture anywhere. You know what I mean? And like I don't know.
I mean, I'm coming at it from a very modern knowledge-based context as well, and that's part of the frustration.
So how many issues are you in right now? How many issues are you
I think I just read issue 8.
8, okay.
So yeah, super early. I'm not even I think it might not have been monthly right away, so I might be a year or so. Because I'm like, that's the interesting thing about it too, dude. Because they just like a couple issues ago introduced like a letter section for the first time, so you get the reader feedback and people talking about their excitement and yada yada. And in the same way that an early Nintendo Power letter, it feels like they're trying to, they're printing letters that build their confidence up about what this is. But even before that happened, like read the first issue, dude. It's like, it is so like boastful about like, this is the most exciting group of teens you've ever, it's just so...
Salesy? Is it like get you?
Yeah, salesy is a great way to put it. They are trying to sell you that this is the coolest new thing ever, and you know that's I feel that's present even in the showmanship of cinema and everything in that era. Like there was less media coverage, and it was harder for people to find critical analysis of creative works. So there was more leeway for a content creator, a creative work creator, to kind of mislead or, manipulate someone's willingness to buy their thing, So that's more prevalent. Not my point being, it's not just a comic thing that Marvel's doing. I kind of think that was the landscape for creative work commerce at the time. That was I feel that way. Like if you look at like movie ads and stuff, like print movie ads from the 50s and 60s, like it's kind of the same thing. Like, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever, and like you would never see that. They do it differently now. They try to like put it. They like put the reviewer comment on it that like this is the third party vindication of the same thing they wanted to tell you firsthand in the 50s and 60s. You know what I mean? So it's not just a comic criticism, but it is interesting to watch because it's in the writing. They're like part of the editor dialogue in those yellow fucking square boxes is like trying to convince you to buy the next issue right there in the text.
Oh yeah,
in a very, very discernible way that is not present in the current writing style or whatever, So that's just kind of these functional things is also part of the interesting aspect of it too. It's not just the story catch up. It's also like looking at the nuts and bolts of it back then was just so different and interesting,
Oh man, yeah. This is so fascinating. I'm like going through all of it's funny. I used to be able to tell you exactly at which point like it switched over and like the new team like took over, but like I don't remember.
I don't know if I knew exactly,
like, oh,
but
which one was
I
it?
definitely had that first set of Marvel cards, and I knew a whole lot of benchmarks, fucking stuff that I don't recall specifically. Like I mean, even that card set had like famous issues of. And I mean, that's how I know of Giant X-Man existing. Mm-hmm. That's how I know of so many issues. One. That's why I know 181 is Wolverine. 181 Hulk is Wolverine's first appearance. I know all that shit. Partly from collecting comics too, and just know those being Target issues. But my first introduction to learning a lot of that stuff would have been that first set of Marvel cards that came out in whatever that would have been, like probably 89, 90 or something like that. I still had the whole set of them. But yeah, that's a fucking...
That's right. So at 93 is the last one. And then it's Giant Size X-Men #1. And then 94, it's the all new, all different X-Men.
Really? So that's interesting. That's interesting how they grouped this set of them. That's exciting to hear that I'm going to, at the end of this, without having to find a new bundle on archive.org, I'm going to get into the era that I'm most curious to know about. Because, yeah, I mean, that, even like I errantly started reading like the first, 10 pages of Giant Size X-Men before I started with issue 1. And like the way Giant Size X-Men works, it's kind of vignette-y, and they're just introducing the new characters. Like Nightcrawler, they start with Nightcrawler. He's being chased in this French village, and they're trying to like burn him at the stake or something. Mm-hmm. And then they go to Banshee, and then they go to Colossus. So like I got to like Colossus, and I was like, this isn't the beginning. I made an error here. I need to put this down and stop reading and recalibrate what the fuck I'm doing. So yeah, even like it's clearly like they're introducing a whole new set of people with that issue for sure, just in the way it's done. So yeah, I'm very excited. And that is just like Storm 2 is introduced there, and actually that was one of the ones I read too in that little initial few pages. So yeah, just fucking that 100% is literally why I did this. I actually kind of hate all these characters. I don't like any of these original X-Men.
They don't get cool in any respects until much later. Like until much later. In specific runs. Like
I've never liked Cyclops. I loved that. That's kind of why I love the era, because that Giant Size X, like that group initially doesn't even have Cyclops. Like I don't know. They become X Factor. Like that whole group moves over and becomes a new group that's not the X-Men. They become X Factor.
Exactly.
That original X-Men group, and like they're completely out of the picture. And that's why it's my favorite era, is because Wolverine and
that's
Storm
why everybody
and Nightcrawler and Colossus are like 70 million times cooler than any of those fucking assholes that started in the original group. So yeah, that's why I like that era so much, is 100%. Because fucking they're gone entirely. So that I only have them and all their rigid fucking bullshit is like a really unenjoyable aspect of it. But obviously the historical significance of it is driving me through.
All right, I'm joining you through that then, because like obviously, like I said, I'm on my own current run where I'm like probably a little more than a year behind when I think about the current run. But yeah, now looking at this, I'm like, I read obviously all the current stuff, but like there was a gap in there in some of this old stuff where I was like, yeah, let me just jump to the all new, all different. And
I sent you the link. So, I want to know, actually, go into your fucking Marvel account and find out exactly what's available. So I want to know if I hit some kind of wall along the way, I want to know what the Marvel subscription could supplement out of what I'm able to find. So definitely look into that and let me know. But yeah, I sent you the link for this.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. I'm looking at that's awesome.
So yeah, there's plenty in there to start with and get you going, to say the least. Yeah, I mean, I just downloaded them all basically onto my Google Drive, and I can just pull them from wherever on any fucking device, wherever I'm at. And like I said, they're pretty bite-sized with the ads taken out. We're talking like 24, 25 pages, and they're super big, like 6 panels a page. It's like they're not doing anything creative with the fucking art layout at all early on. So it's super fast and consumable to blow through one. Probably maybe at most 12, 15 minutes to get through an issue, I'm knocking them out as I go to bed pretty much,
Dude, yeah. I told you, I nerded out. That's why you sent me a question. I was just like, I could just go off of forever, like talking about this stuff. It's awesome.
Well, that is its own side quest. Let us discuss Nintendo Power, a different periodical now.